Hi everybody, I'm Dave Sliozis. I'm here for The Last Meal. Today we have Wade Williams, who plays Brad Bellick, and Robert Knepper, who plays Teabag. We're having a fine steak dinner, some chicken. I think you ordered some seafood. Let's talk a little bit about how you guys got into acting in general. You started out, you kind of have a musical background and a theater background. Your mother worked in the theater, and that kind of started you.
Your mother worked in the theater?
Are you talking about my mother?
No.
Careful.
I don't talk about your mother anymore. Go ahead.
Well, how old were you when you started acting?
25.
Really?
Yeah.
Latecomer.
Yeah.
What did you do before that?
I worked at a hospital in surgery. I was a surgical orderly. I did.
I was a dental surgeon.
I did. And I worked in restaurants. I was a sous chef at a French restaurant.
My God.
So you've done it all.
Done pretty good.
You're like a Chicago actor. They start with a whole other career and then
Well,
they
you
go
got to
to
do
something else.
fast food in order to be a Chicago actor.
Yeah, you have to go to prison in order to be a Chicago actor.
So then, did you start out like in a television role or on theater?
No, theater. I was in college, and I was taking singing lessons because I was singing in the church choir, and I needed, figured maybe I'd do better. Maybe I'd go to heaven if I sang better. And so I took some singing lessons, and they had me audition for the musical when I was in college, and I got in the musical. And then I just started taking acting classes, and before I knew it, I graduated with a theater degree.
Oh, be damned.
Before you knew it, it was like, oh, okay, cool.
True. That's
Awesome.
really, never wanted to be an actor.
And your mom?
My mom did props for a little tiny community theater in my little town of Maumee, Ohio. And one summer, the community theater and the town got together and decided to have some other kind of extracurricular activity other than the typical summer things like baseball, which I wasn't very good at when I was a kid. So they decided to start a little children's theater program. And there was a day that was decided that we'd all join up at the local library. And my mom dropped me off a little bit early. And there was a tree there, and I climbed up this big tree, and I was the first one there, and I got all the way to the top of the tree, and I watched all these little kids gather down below, like a group of ants. They were so far down. And finally, the head guy looked up, Mr. Markle was his name, and said, "Hey, you want to join the theater?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And I climbed down, and that was it.
Wow.
And years later?
I caught the bug. And I just did it for fun. Back then, you just did it because you made people laugh, or you got to sing. We wrote operettas every summer.
No kidding.
And we'd write the whole story, and then we'd put it to music. And then my dad's a veterinarian, and I always thought I would probably pursue that, but I went to Northwestern and just loved acting. And he wrote me a letter saying, "I think you're doing the right thing," and there I was, off and running with theater.
And since then, you've both worked with some pretty huge stars along the way.
Wade Williams, big star.
Near the end of last season, you guys obviously worked together a lot. Bellick was catching up with the guys getting out. And now, you guys probably don't share a scene for a very long time because your motivations are different. So is it nice to kind of have situations like this where you're kind of like, "Hey, what's going on? I haven't talked to you in a while."
Well, we actually have children that are the same age, so
Sure.
we've been hanging out with our kids over the
Yeah,
years.
but just so you know, just when you think we're not going to have something together, we might have something together.
We
so
might have a little
you know,
something together.
there's something coming up. It's
But we're not telling.
we're not telling.
Including season 1 and what you've filmed up to now, actually what's aired last was Buried. Has there been a scene in a script where you guys have either read it and been like, how are they going to do that? Or has there been something that, what is your favorite scene that you've done so far?
Well, I love that scene
With us.
with us. That was one
That's
of my
one
favorite
of
scenes.
my favorite moments too.
When the inbred child of a retard and the look he gives when it takes that in, and then the reaction.
Talking about the
riot,
episode where
that
I start the riot.
Was that
The
Riot,
riot scene.
Strills and the Devil?
Yeah.
Number
Yeah.
1, I think.
I start the riot against the guards.
Yeah.
And there's this huge world breaking apart, this apocalypse now within the prison. And he zings me with something. I read your psych report, Teddy, how your daddy did his mongoloid sister, and out popped Teddy.
9 months later, little Teddy pops
And the
out.
whole world just gets very quiet,
It's great.
very quiet, and then an eruption. It's so funny because, you know, especially when you don't have much time to think about a character, preparing for a character, you got to quickly come up with a backstory or a background for these characters. And I had a completely different background, similar in a way, but not as specific as that line that Wade had. And then, you know, 4 episodes into it, you're informed of that kind of storyline, and you go, oh, yeah. And that moment for me informed pretty much the rest of the characters so far.
Mm-hmm.
And like, for instance, ever since that moment, I've been thinking, oh, wouldn't it be great someday to figure out, could I meet my father? Could I meet my mother? Could I have a scene with one of them or both of them? Or do I find out they're dead or whatever? We find out about, you know, Bellick's mother.
Mm-hmm.
You find out all these personal things about each other that, you know, in the day-to-day life inside a prison you don't talk about.
Right.
You know, but they're so much a part of who we are as characters.